Right, so I'm picking up on this theme, these critiques of a couple of sermons or some sermons that I've heard recently. Only one of them was from Tim Whipple out of Bridgepoint. Several have been from Glenn Money at First Baptist. First Baptist St. Petersburg is my church. Glenn Money is my preacher. I don't think he's very happy about the fact that he is my preacher. And I'm not happy about the fact that he's not happy about the fact, but it is what it is. So, that's that. I am, I'm happy that he's my preacher. I think he's as good as any. So, what can I say? Basically, I just think that the job that these preachers are doing has been totally compromised and totally corrupted by the lure of popularity and public approval, which is those things, popularity and public approval, are kind of the antithesis of what I think God has called any leader, really. Secular or otherwise, but especially a godly leader. It's like Benjamin Franklin said with respect to leadership: if you inspire anybody to do any good thing, then you are a leader. I think it was Benjamin Franklin that said that. That's not an exact quote, but I hope it captures the spirit of the quote that I'm thinking of, regardless of who it is attributed to. So there is the sense that, that everything that I'm thinking about here, I'm talking about, applies to all of us. There is that sense, but I'm speaking of it specifically in respect to preachers, and specifically in respect to two specific preachers who I am very specifically and explicitly naming by name, holding up to public ridicule and public rebuking and public assessment, because I think that if you want the glory of standing up in public, then you've got to have the confidence and the strength to be able to withstand the scrutiny. That's the word I was looking for, as opposed to assessment. The scrutiny and the occasional rebuking and the occasional, not pejorative, but whatever that other word I used before, ridicule. The occasional ridicule. To me, it all comes, it's all part of the same playing field, and you can't have your candy all the time. You can't have the praise all the time. I respect the job that these guys do. I respect that it's a very hard job, and frankly, respect is what inspires me to be critical, because you can't respect somebody and fail to hold them to a high standard simultaneously. That's not respect. Failing to hold people to a high standard is not respect. That's pandering. That's disrespect, actually. Although it's a kind of cloaked form of disrespect, but it is disrespect. That popular saying, soft bigotry of low expectations. So I would just modify that a little bit and say I don't want to engage in the cloaked disrespect of low expectations. And to me, that's just another way of saying pandering. That's a long-winded, more descriptive, explicit way of saying pandering. So I don't want to pander to men that have a high calling, and I expect them to not want to be pandered to. I expect them to be sensitive to that, because if I expected them to want to be pandered to, then that would by definition mean that I have a I hold them in a low regard, because obviously people that want to be pandered to are people who are not respectable people, right? So, again, the honor and the respect that comes with being a public community leader is something that exists on the same playing field as the scrutiny and the ridicule as it is deserved, ridicule and rebuking as it is deserved. These all exist on the same playing field. So if you want to enjoy the glory, then I think you've got to be strong enough to take the lumps. So however you want to say this, I hope I'm conveying what I mean to be conveying, and I'm not conveying something different. But hopefully this makes sense. So I want to get off on the Glenn Money thing and the whole just total, completely sold out racism of white people hating white people, and white people holding white people in low regard. The complete and total intellectual depravity of that undertaking. Mao Zedong was Chinese. He killed tens of millions of Chinese. Joseph Stalin was Russian. He killed tens of millions of Russians. Adolf Hitler was German. He killed tens of millions of Germans, I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. Pol Pot, Jim Jones, he was a white American. He killed dozens or hundreds, I don't know how many there were, but I'll just go with dozens so I don't overstate the situation. Dozens of white Americans. I mean, this silly, intellectually depraved, stupid, ignorant sophistry that racism is the only form of death and is the only motivation for death and destruction in the world, and therefore we have to just run around in a panic-stricken state of mind, thinking that there's a racist in every tree and a racist in every bush and a Klansman in every garbage can, and it's just cartoonish. I mean, it's ridiculous. And this is the thing that Glenn Money tried to engage in, and he deserves to be held up to public ridicule and public rebuking and public censoring. I don't think he should lose his job or take a pay cut. I'm not suggesting anything like that, but I'm suggesting that this absurdity and this professional, what's the word that doctors get sued for all the time? Malfeasance, malpractice. This professional malpractice is just completely and totally condemnable. I mean, they're really, I cannot as far as I'm concerned, there are not words, you might say I'm speaking hyperbolically or too strong. No, I don't think there are words that are strong enough to accurately represent the depth of the betrayal of his professional calling that is represented by his enthusiasm for engaging in this type of rhetoric and dialogue. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, really and truly, it's unbelievable. I mean, this is a diabolical, ugly, filthy, nasty conversation to try to instantiate or try to, initiate, not instantiate, initiate. It's to me, it's just unbelievable. I mean, what Tim Whipple engaged in was just professional buffoonery, sophistry of ignorance and stupidity. I don't really see much like diabolical, evil ugliness in what Tim Whipple engaged in. I just see it as professional buffoonery, very like subtle, if there is anything conspiratorial about what Tim Whipple engaged in, it's just very subtle, high-level, dumbing down of the public. But what Glenn Money is engaging in is truly, blatantly, diabolically evil. To turn white people against white people on the completely and total ignorant premise that people of the same nationality, race, religion, gender, never do harm to their own. I mean, that is total ignorance. That is total depraved stupidity. And it is completely and totally diabolical, totally evil, totally mean-spirited. To turn anybody against anybody else for any reason. It's just, I mean, these, I can take issue with your arguments. That doesn't mean I hate you as a person, but to bring in people that say, and to try to build them up as some big time yada yada yuckity yuck because they're a professor. Nobody cares about professors anymore. Nobody cares. I mean, unless you're over 65. I mean, anybody under 65. Nobody cares about college degrees. Nobody cares about professors. Nobody has respect for these big-time professional yuckity-yuck letters and degrees and certifications and achievements and directorships and titles of every stripe and color. No. Everybody under the age of 65 is living in an age of individualism. As much as you tried to short-circuit the work of Ayn Rand and the power of the individual, now it is completely blown up in your face, and everything that you've ever stood for is totally held in low regard now. I mean, it's just complete nonsense that you try to hold. I mean, this guy's an accomplished author from the Gaza. Well, anybody under the age of 65, I mean, we all know anybody can publish a book. I mean, there's millions. It's not anything distinctive. I could go find 1,000 books in a week that are totally depraved, totally socially unacceptable, totally ridiculous, totally absurd. There's nothing distinctive about having written a book. You could publish a book for $3 on Amazon. I mean, you're operating on the basis of you're walking around on a bridge that is rotten and it's about to collapse under your feet, but you're still trying to project an aura of confidence and superiority and professional elevation over other people. It just doesn't work anymore. You're just a buffoon. You just look